commission meeting for August 15th. I will go over the rules and procedures before we get started. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission, other than site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact City Clerk or Development Services Department staff for details on council hearings. Applicants will be given 10 minutes to present their request. Proponents and then opponents from the public are allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Applicant will be given a 5-minute opportunity for rebuttal. The hearing will then be closed and the commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I move approval.
Thank you, Todd. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions, same sign. Motion passes. We've got a couple of items on the consent agenda tonight that I will go over before those are voted on. Item number 1 on the consent agenda is a city-initiated request for a vacation of the following segments of right-of-way for purposes of a project to remove the roadways and restore the area for incorporation into the lower 4 Mile Creek Greenway. A, East 36th Street from East Sheridan Avenue to Arthur Avenue. B, East 36th Court from East Sheridan Avenue to Arthur Avenue. C, Arthur Avenue to the west of East 37th Street. D, East 40th Court to the south of East Jefferson Avenue. And E, Lot Q between the vacated 4 Mile Drive and the south line of Lot Q. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda for it to be discussed in a public hearing tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone in the commission? Seeing none, the item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 2 is a request from Michael Harlan for review of a public hearing site plan for property located at 1110 18th Street and for a type 2 design alternative in accordance with city code to allow for construction of an attached garage with an overhead door on the front facade of a House D building type home in an N5 neighborhood district, where a House D building type can only have an attached garage overhead door on a side or rear facade per city code. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda for it to be discussed as part of the public hearing tonight? Seeing none, the item will remain on, sorry. Is there any commissioner who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the item will remain on the consent agenda. And those are the 2 items that we have on consent tonight. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. We've got a few public hearing items tonight. We'll get started with item number 3. Request from Rally Cat Properties regarding vacation of surface right-of-way adjoining property at 601 24th Street and 602 23rd Street to allow existing garden structures and a proposed perimeter fence to encroach into the right-of-way. The proposed right-of-way vacations include 8 feet along 24th Street and adjoining 601 24th Street, 6 feet along High Street and adjoining 601 24th Street. The vacated north-south, I just lost my item. one second. The vacated north-south alleyway and 602 23rd Street, and 8 feet along 23rd Street and adjoining 602 23rd Street. Catherine will be presenting from staff.
Chair, members of the Commission, Catherine Dreyhaus, planner for the City of Des Moines. As mentioned, this is a right-of-way vacation before you, located on the north side of High Street right-of-way, and then the west side of 23rd Street right-of-way, and the east side of 24th Street right-of-way, as you can see located on the map. The adjoining properties are 601 24th Street and 602 23rd Street, and the alleyway in the middle was previously vacated last October. You would have seen it before you at that time. Again, just the survey showing what would be vacated. Again, on the western side, they're requesting, sorry, my eyes are getting a little old. They're requesting 8 feet on the west side, 10 feet on the east side, and 6 feet on the south side. The reason for these numbers is I don't have a good aerial to show you because it does actually show up on the aerial, but they do have plantings, planter beds in some of those right-of-way areas, and are looking to both retain those as well as have room to enclose those with the fence that was required when they went to ZBOA last year for a few other activities that they did. The applicant did provide us with these images that they marked up, kind of showing what they're trying to do. They were marked up by the applicant and submitted with the application. Looks like I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. It looks like it might be helpful to more than just me. Oops. Then I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide so you can also see a little bit more about what they're proposing. We can come back to any of these if I've gone too quickly. And then, as mentioned, this is 23rd Street. And I believe the red line is the close approximation that the applicant put in for the vision clearance triangle. So you can see that their encroachments are outside of the vision clearance triangle. Site photos that I took on Tuesday, just to give a little bit of context, apologies. That's looking up the 24th Street right away. There's a fairly steep slope on this site. Along High Street from 24th Street, looking northeast again. You may recall potentially last fall there was an informal shelter that had been constructed on the site when this was part of the notice of violation that the applicant received that drove them to both come to P&Z and go to ZBOA. Since the determination by the ZBOA and as part of the mitigating the notice of violation, they have removed the informal structure and they have constructed a very nice permanent structure to house their equipment and stuff and reduce their outdoor storage issues that also came up with the notice of violation. More site photos along High Street, and then this, once it finishes loading, will show you looking up the 23rd Street right of way. There we go. As you know, with a right-of-way vacation, the purpose of the vacation request and what's before the P&Z tonight is whether or not the right-of-way in question is necessary to be retained by the city for public use. As I mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of history on this site. The applicant acquired the property and then in 2019 came before the commission for a rezoning request. This was before our code update, so at the time he was requesting for an R3, which would allow a low density row home style development. And then I believe at that time, staff and the P&Z recommended approval of his request. When it went to City Council for final determination, the applicant did end up withdrawing his request, and so that project never moved forward. And then in 2023, as I mentioned, the applicant received a notice of violation from the Enforcement Department for things about, including unpermitted on-site sales of products, and then also outdoor storage. I believe there might have been a citation on junk and debris, but I think that was inclined to be part of the outdoor storage concern, and I believe these were neighborhood-generated concerns that brought it to the attention of the city. The applicant responded timely and reached out and started the process to apply to both the P&Z for vacation of the alley right-of-way in between the two parcels that he owned. That was granted. And then due to like the on-site sales and things like that, he also had to go to Zoning Board of Adjustment. And at that time, he was requesting the conditional use for on-site sales. He was also requesting a conditional use for temporary uses, and he wanted that to allow that for seasonal gathering type events. He also requested variance of the fence requirement in our supplemental use regulations that state community garden needs to be fenced, as well as he had a few modifications to the type of, the size of signs that our community gardens are required to post visible from the right-of-way. And I think he just has a different size of sign that he wanted to put up. The sign requests were granted, as was the right to have the conditional use for the on-site sales. The request for the temporary use for seasonal events was denied, and then the request for the variance of the fence was denied due to the difficulty of the variance test. Generally, staff took a look at this, and we don't have many concerns with the request for the use of the right-of-way and the way that the applicant is proposing to use it with the planter beds, the temporary structures, and the fence. And the main reason that there's some consideration with this is that there's a lot of utilities in the area, and then the city is looking for a consistent right-of-way along High Street. This is actually one of the longest stretches of right-of-way in the city that extends from 14th Street to 28th Street with a consistent right-of-way, which allows flexibility and greater ease of allowing different utilities and undergrounding of other services to go easily into place. And so for a number of reasons along that line, staff is recommending denial of the requested right-of-way vacation because there is the option for the applicant to pursue a right-of-way license, which does not require a right-of-way vacation. This essentially, and this isn't my area of expertise, so I hopefully won't be misspeaking, but essentially this requires just a low-cost, short-term lease that gets renegotiated periodically to maintain use of that right-of-way. So he would continue to be able to use it as he's using it with the license. It just would not be vacated for private use. It would remain available for public use. And that's the rationale that staff has for recommending denial at this time. Again, if the request is denied tonight, it would be recommended that he would seek the right-of-way license. We did,
I just wanted to clarify,
Thank you.
Catherine, that you'd hit on it earlier, but the commission's role is to make a recommendation to the city council. So ultimately, the decision as to what to do won't end tonight. So whatever you elect to make a recommendation on, that will move on to city council. Just wanted to, go ahead.
I have a question over here, sorry.
Sorry.
Is the license with the city? Is
Yes.
Okay, so they would pay for the license to the city?
correct.
And
And
it's
it
a-
would be reviewed and negotiated with the right-of-way team that handles these right-of-way vacations, and they get handled frequently with a lot of our utility providers, so.
Should we, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you before you closed up, so why
Okay.
don't we have her finish and then any other
So,
questions?
of course, as with all right-of-way vacations, we sent out notice. Notice is required, our courtesy notice is required to go to adjoining and adjacent parcels. So those are the parcels that you see identified in gray on the map. We received one back within this notification area, and the respondent is in support of the request for the vacation. We do have our 250-foot buffer showing on here, so you can see how far 250 feet is from the impacted parcels. And we did receive quite a few responses, most from through email outside of our notification process. And we've included, I believe, the majority. I think there's one that came in after we made this presentation this afternoon that might not be in there. It will be included in the council packet. So what I will show you for our response cards is we did receive a letter from, let me get this in place, from the Neighborhood Association. And I'm going to make that a little bit larger. I'll give you a minute and then I'll scroll to the rest of the letter. And we can come back to that if anyone has any questions. The notification card that we did receive back, and again, this person was noticed on the consent map as being in support of the applicant's request. I did my best to go through the email responses and identify which ones were from organizations or residents within the 250-foot buffer, so I'll be showing those. Because we received so many additional responses, while they're available on this presentation, I'm probably not going to show all of those that are outside the 250 feet. And that's going to include people who are within a few blocks of this project, but they're outside the 250-foot notification area that we're required by City Council to do, all the way up to, I think we received somebody writing from Ames. So if somebody comes up here and is looking for their response card, it should be in this file. It just might be that they're more than 250 feet from the affected property.
Catherine, can you give us a sense of what their mood was, of those that weren't
Generally,
reflected here?
Yeah. Well, actually, pretty much most of what we received was concern for potential widening of High Street, which is not something that will be happening. I'm not quite sure how that came about, but somebody was concerned about that, and I think it might have spread a little bit. And there are no plans. We've checked with engineering, we've checked with real estate, we've checked with traffic and transportation. There are no plans to widen High Street. It's at its optimal size for the capacity and the needs of the area. And then I think there's just general concern for, they're concerned that the entire garden would be removed, or that there was one other concern. It'll come to me in a minute.
So can you tell us, I'm sorry, over here, if they were not granted this vacation and they were to not get the license, what would be the exact consequences, or what would they have to do exactly?
So tonight, if they don't get, if you recommend denial to City Council and City Council were to uphold that recommendation, What that would mean is that they would not get the vacation, and that land would not be available to transfer into private use. It would remain in public use and essentially city-owned, colloquially. That, again, allows utilities and everything to operate smoothly. The option that would be available to him at that point would be that he could go for the right-of-way license. And again, this is why we're recommending denial. There's another option that city has reviewed and determined is the preferable pathway forward would be to go for the right-of-way license. And this was presented to the applicant when he came in for his fence permit, but he opted to go for the vacation over the license. The licenses are never seen by P&Z. They don't require vacation. They're available for up to 5 years at a time, 1 to 5 years at a time. They're frequently issued for 3 years because any right-of-way license that goes for more than 3 years has to be approved by the city council. And then there's usually a nominal, like,
I think what we were quoted is about $100.
yeah, a nominal
So if
lease
it's 3
fee.
years or less, it's administrative, and staff's already committed to approving it. But if it's beyond 3 years, it would require council action.
If they don't get the license, I got a phone call today that said, oh, they're going to have to cut down every tree. Can you tell me what exactly is going to have to happen if they were to not get the license?
Well, staff is already, yeah, I mean, we've already committed to approving the license. So that's not going to not happen. So
So we're really looking at trying to see if we can save them some money.
the point of the vacation, I think, and we should let Ryan speak to it, is that he wants to own the land versus,
Just a reminder, can we please turn on our mic so we can hear the conversation, just for the
Sure.
public meeting?
I think mine's on, but maybe I'm turned a little too much. But really the difference between vacation and licensing is just like long-term ownership. Although it could be vacated and leased, because often we will vacate land and lease when we're dealing with something that's a more permanent structure. Anyway, yeah.
Are we able to ask other questions, or is there more of the presentation?
I'm just going to go through a couple more of the comment letters that we received from within the 250 feet. There aren't too many more. And then feel free to ask questions. Give you a minute on this one, and then I'll move to the next one. I can always come back. And then this is the last one from either property owners or organizations within the impacted area. The rest are slides 26 through 85 are from people who sent us emails and are either a few blocks outside of the 250-foot area or up to Ames.
Thanks, Catherine. Any additional questions from the commission for staff?
I have a question. Somewhat unusual in a residential area like this to have such extensive right-of-way behind the sidewalk. Can someone speak a little more detailed about the utilities, whether or not there are actually utilities between the sidewalk and the right-of-way, and whether or not we plan to add utilities to that area or modify that would really need that additional 6 to 10 feet?
John, is that something you'd like to address?
Good afternoon. For the record, John Davis, City Traffic Engineer with the Engineering Department and Traffic and Transportation Division. In terms of the use of the right-of-way, it is, it provides us options, this access right-of-way. If, for example, for potential future relocation of utilities, or if a utility came in that needed to be placed, it provides options. It also provides options if there was a desire to provide a widened sidewalk. As opposed to pushing it towards the street, we can move it a little bit to the north, or the width to the north. That is really the utility of the access right-of-way at this time. And if I may, I'd like to clarify the license terms. Typically, we look at a 5-year. Typically, the starting point is around $100 a year, but those terms are negotiable. We have licenses in place that are for 25 years, that have renewals after that. The requirement to go to the city council is if the total term of the license, including any renewals that might be negotiated, exceeds 3 years. Then the value of that on an annual basis can also be negotiated down to at least $1, and could be more. It depends on the value, the situation that is in place. So that is the terms of the license. In fact, I looked up with the real estate division. We have a license that's currently active near the Botanical Gardens that is a 25-year license that has a renewal. So.
Can we ask him before he goes? Or do you have follow-up?
Could I just clarify? I'm just trying to understand the term options and what that means. So with most neighborhoods or most residential streets that only have that 1 foot behind the sidewalk, they have to work within that constraint. So is there some sort of future utility need that we think is going to require that 6 to 10 feet that we can anticipate in the next, say, 25, 30 years?
We do not have anything. My crystal ball is not that good out 25 years, but it just provides us options. We have that land. This is the license is a very common instrument that we use in other situations, and is consistent through is consistently applied throughout the city.
So you, on here, I think is referenced by you about operate smoothly, and here we're saying we want options because we have the longest stretch of this, currently owned right-of-way to put utilities in. What percentage of the street would be impacted if you did put something in? I mean, this seems like the only stretch of that street that's actually clear of anything, because the rest of the street has retaining walls and fences and all other kinds of things all the way up to the sidewalk. It seems like to say we want to operate smoothly for one block when the rest of the street would be heavily impacted by any utility going in. Does it really matter? Aren't we going to have a real problem if we decide to tear something up and run along that street anyway?
The circumstance would be if there is an occasion in the future that we would need that 6 feet.
Right. So, but if you needed that,
then we would have to acquire that.
but if you needed that 6 feet, you'd probably need it all the way up the street, not just for this one block, wouldn't you?
It very well could.
So if you did it all the way up the street, is everything else free and clear? Is everyone else open so everything would be smoothly? Or how many properties being
potentially under that the hypothetical? It's a 66-foot right-of-way that extends from 14th to 28th along the street.
And there's nothing else in any other front yard that's in that right-of-way that would need to be impacted? Are you not tearing out other fences and other things? The argument of saying we need this because it'd be smooth, this whole street looks like, I mean, we have one building that's basically at the line. You'd be hitting the bricks.
I think part of the answer is that there may be stuff in the right-of-way, but it's not gone through a process where it's been formalized. So they don't necessarily, if somebody's fence is there and it has to be moved because of a utility project, that's, the city's not going to be obligated to buy the land from them or pay to have it move the fence because it's inadvertently been put into the right-of-way. it's not on their property. So in this case, it's a little different because the question here is, should we transfer the ownership of the land? Are there places around here where there's stuff that's in the right-of-way? I'm sure it exists, but it's there incidentally or wasn't approved.
Gotcha, okay, so all the fences that are along the sidewalk, along that street, or any other structure along the sidewalk and 6 feet from the fence, that's not allowed to be there, and the city has the right to tear it out?
There, if it's in the way of a utility project, I mean, nobody's going to go actively looking for stuff, but if a utility project came through and was in the way, they'd be able to remove those as part of the utility project.
Gotcha, okay, so the utility project that we can't currently foresee may occur, we might rip it out, it might rip out
I'm
everyone's
just trying to
yard.
provide the answer for the difference. We
Gotcha,
can ask the
okay.
question.
Yeah, oh, no, thank you very much. And then, sorry.
We'll bring
Sorry,
it
that's all I
back
have for
to.
traffic, sorry. Yeah, bad one for other staff as well, is that all right? That she mentioned?
You ready
What?
with your next question?
Yep, I am, but it's for the other staff, not with traffic. Is it-
One of my questions was, if we go through the vacation process, couldn't the city just get the easements that it needs for a potential utility project in the future?
As with previous vacations, if the vacation is approved, the staff will put the condition that we always put on, that easements will be retained until such times that the utilities are abandoned or moved. And, but that condition is dependent upon whether or not these are approved tonight, these vacations are approved. And I think, again, staff's reason for denial is that the right-of-way license provides both the security to the city that this property remains in the public right-of-way while allowing the applicant to utilize that public land as he's currently using it and as he continues to wishes to use it.
But the answer to the easements
It's
being
yes.
used is yes.
Yeah, an easement could be recorded.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do the other property owners that have encroachments on the right-of-way that they didn't know about, that go out to the sidewalk, do they have to get the lease?
No. Technically, they're not supposed to be encroaching on the right-of-way, but this, as Jason mentioned, this is not something that city staff goes out of their way to look for. You could drive pretty much anywhere in town and you're going to see encroachments in the right-of-way. People plant things, people, add a pretty mailbox, and it might be in the right-of-way without realizing they're in the right-of-way. They might not look up their right-of-way before they plant a garden. And so the city's not going to actively
Yeah, this
punish
became.
anyone for that.
Was brought forth because of permit requests, and I think the applicant, and we can let the applicant speak to
This
looking for his pins.
came up when he came to comply with the CBOA decision to install a fence, and he was asking for a fence permit. And it was realized that he was encroaching in the right-of-way, so he was presented with the options that he had to move forward, and this is the one he chose.
Catherine, can I just get a point of clarification? In the staff report, it's listed as 8 feet along 24th, 6 feet along High Street, and 8 feet along 23rd Street. And in your presentation, I believe you had 10 feet along 23rd Street.
Apologies. We had a couple of different survey exhibits when we were writing the staff recommendation. I might have used the wrong one when I wrote this.
Okay, so
I think we'll refer to
the
this
staff report.
document and the agenda.
Okay.
Is that correct, Jason?
This should be the accurate.
Yes. So
Reflection
this document
of this.
that's in front of you on the screen.
Okay, so 10 feet along 23rd. Thank you.
I have one more question. Can you talk about what the rights of a licensee holder would be? If you were granted a license and then the city decided to come in and they wanted to, and say it was for 5 years, and we're within that 5-year period and the city wanted to widen the sidewalk, could they go ahead and do that at that time, or do they have to wait for the license to expire, or how does that work?
In licenses, you will typically have a notification period that's included, that if a change or something that's in the area of the license needs to be disturbed or removed, then there's notice given. That notice can be whatever length is negotiated. It could be a year, it could be 30 days, but it provides the right for the city to come in to make the change under the terms of the license.
I just want to make sure I'm clarifying, because it seemed like from the comments and a few items, so the objective of the applicant is they want to be able to purchase it, and we would need to approve vacation to allow them to purchase it. Is that right? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and right now, the offer before us tonight is a desire to deny the opportunity to vacate, which would allow a purchase to go through, and instead use the license. That's the city position?
Yeah, our recommendation, I think we are all trying to get to the same point of trying to find a way to allow this. What our recommendation is let's do it through the lease license process. That doesn't allow for ownership, so that's why Ryan has moved forward with the vacation request.
Okay, but the chair has also confirmed that with an easement, we would achieve what the city wants by enabling easement through that sale, which is the right to have access to use that space anyway, right?
I don't believe
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
a
an
correct-
easement could be granted that would allow access. I mean, that's, I don't know that the commission needs to get into that level of minutia, but the answer is yes. An easement, it is possible to sell this with an easement that would allow for some access rights for utilities.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be pedantic. I'm just curious to make sure if I'm looking at the objective is for an individual to economically, predictably control the perimeter that they're going to have to build, right? And make sure that they know they have the time for their investment to mature and be able to keep using it. Like any other business, developers come in here all the time and say, I need 10 to 20 years of certainty, and we're offering 5 right now. That seems a little inequitable, right? That seems challenging if I'm looking just the economics of a site here that may not necessarily be making the same amount of money as the 18 million we give away to developers, right? So I think that part might be different. The other part I guess I'm curious on here though is, let's see. Oh, and so basically we do say easement could work. We know that the applicant wants to buy, and we know that in order for them to be able to buy, we have to approve vacation. But now down here I have what type of outdoor sales were occurring? Like, is that structure like a shop? Like, were there shelves? Were they selling stuff on
There
the
was
shop?
outdoor storage that was cited in the notice of violation, and there were on-site sales that were occurring. I'm afraid I never visited at the time, so I don't know what type of on-site sales were occurring, but they were at the time. On-site sales under the regulations for community and urban gardens are not allowed. Community and urban gardens are meant for use by residents who might need additional space for gardening, or for groups that are gardening for charity.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be used for having a farmer's market on the property.
So a farmer's market, is there no event strategy for allowing?
But nothing that we're talking about tonight is regarding use. The use decision's has been made. We're talking about vacating some right-of-way and assembling it with the land for a use that's been legally established now. So I don't know that we need to.
What's in the packet?
I think we were just trying to provide background information, but it has nothing to do with the basis for our recommendation or whether or not you guys think it's needed for a public purpose or not.
Well, here's my cross-selling issue then, because it sounds like what you're saying here is if we fix 134.372, then this also goes away, because this would actually go under 372 if I'm understanding the nature of the sales. Is that right? We're saying this was a...
Today, what's before the commission now is more about use of right-of-way. It's...
I'm just asking based off the pack in the presentation. But I guess my last question there off the pack presentation, what's a gathering?
Can we defer to our attorney to get an opinion on this subject?
Yeah, awesome.
I mean, I don't know if there's a ruling. I think what's germane at this point is the vacation. We're not discussing the infractions that occurred in the earlier notice of violation. So, I can't opine on any of that notice of violation subject. But at this point, we're considering the vacation. If there's questions of vacation, I can discuss that.
Do we know the definition of gathering?
Again, at this point, that's not germane to the discussion, and if gathering it was on the notice of violation, I am unaware of that subject, and I can get you more information, but at this point, I don't have information on that.
It is in the packet.
Well, let's go back to the vacation request.
Can I, sorry.
Are there any other
Can I-
questions?
Well, I have a question
for
about the
staff?
fence. What are the requirements for the fence that will go up? Is there a height requirement? Is there, does it need to be solid?
It's going to depend on where on the property. You know, the fence regulations give you different options based off of where you're on the property. So if it's like the back property line, it could be 6-foot tall privacy fence. If it's in what would be the front yard equivalent, it would need to be 4-foot tall, or excuse me, 3-foot tall and open.
Okay, so this would
It's going to vary.
be assumed to be a front yard?
Yeah, and I think if we let Ryan present, he has a presentation that show, I believe
Okay.
he started assembling
Okay, thank you.
fence that you can see it.
Sure.
Todd?
Can I ask what I think is a simple question? If it's vacated, does the property line move?
If it's vacated and sold, yes, the property line moves.
So then the zone, the measured distance from the new property line to the front of any building moves with that.
That's correct. So if this were to be redeveloped in the future.
That helps me make my decision, thanks.
Any other questions for staff before the applicant comes up to the podium to present? Seeing none, I will invite the applicant to the podium. Please state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes to present. And then don't forget to sign the sheet afterwards.
All right. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for having me here. My name is Ryan Francois. I live at 2723 High Street, 1 block away from this property. I'm a Des Moines native and a local developer. Through my company, Rallycat Properties, I've restored over 30 properties within a mile radius of this property. Most of these have been vacant, dilapidated, historic homes. I've been investing in Woodland Heights since 2015, and I've lived here personally since 2018. The property we're talking about today is located at 601 24th and 602 23rd in Woodland Heights neighborhood. I initially put this property on contract in the fall of 2019. While I had the property on contract, I was trying to attempt a rezoning of this property to medium density residential to allow for up to 7 row homes on this site. Ultimately, my attempt was unsuccessful. We had pushback from neighbors citing complaints about parking and traffic concerns. P&Z recommended approval, but they restricted me from having any driveways on High Street. If you look at the topography here, this is a challenging site. It's been undeveloped for decades. There's a steep hillside to the north, a narrow frontage along High Street, and to say that we can't have any driveways on High Street basically made that type of development impossible, considering that the parking is also required. We didn't have the votes at council as well. This was during an election cycle and it was a contentious item, so I made the decision to withdraw off the agenda. I purchased the land anyway and started gardening here with my friends in the spring of 2020 at the start of the pandemic. We planted fruit trees, brought in picnic tables, expanded the raised beds, built trails through the wooded hillside, cleaned out debris and junk that had been on the property for years. We built trellises for grapes and hops, and we built an outdoor pizza oven. We continued to grow the space as a garden over the past 4 years, and this has become a gathering space for the community. We've hosted pop-up markets, whimsical potluck dinners, arts events, and workshops. Most of these have been free and open to the public. We've relied on donations from these events and small paid workshops to help offset our operating expenses. We've sold produce and other homemade products like honey and maple syrup that we've tapped from neighborhood trees. Last summer, an anonymous complaint stated that our garden looked like a homeless camp, based off of this shade structure that we had erected for the garden season. This triggered a zoning enforcement action against our garden. The initial zoning violation did not have anything regarding on-site sales in the violation. This violation simply stated that we were not in compliance with the code for the physical infrastructure required for community gardens. I was informed that I needed to have a pre-application meeting with the city about our garden and what we were doing there. In that 1-hour meeting, not one time did on-site sales or public events come up in the meeting. It was only in the staff report that was sent out after the meeting that it was included in there. Even though we had not discussed it in the meeting, it had never come up as a concern. There was no violations of any kind surrounding those activities. Initially, we agreed to build a permanent shed and put signage up with my name and number, but I wanted the opportunity to waive the requirement for a perimeter fence and to apply for a conditional approval to have on-site sales and seasonal events. In the Zoning Board of Adjustment, on-site sales were granted, but we were denied a fence waiver with a vote of 5-1 and the permission to have public events here with a vote of 3-3. Following Zoning Board of Adjustment, I asked for 1 year to make these expensive infrastructure improvements. The donations from our events and the sales of our garden products brought in between $3,000 and $3,500 in annual income for the prior 2 gardening seasons. Now, this was not even enough to cover our operating expenses like insurance, taxes, portable restroom, a water meter, and garden materials. Now, we had been stripped of our main revenue source, but expected to invest in over 600 linear feet of fencing. Furthermore, any kind of economical option like T-posts and wire mesh, which is practical and reasonable for urban gardens, is not allowed because our entire property is deemed a front yard. Therefore, the fence must be entirely made out of solid wood, 3 feet or under, and primarily open. Nonetheless, we pushed forward, and we've been working towards compliance this year. I've been personally floating these expenses to try and keep this passion project alive. We built this shed through the winter and the spring, primarily out of reclaimed quality materials at a cost of $6,000. We built a privacy fence along the rear property line through our wooded hillside. We successfully worked with the city to vacate the unused alleyway that went through our 2 parcels that I had previously been denied when I first purchased the property, and we built a fence and an access gate at that location as well. All of this in 4 or 5 months after the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Our plan was to build a traditional post and rail fence out of solid wood around the remaining 3 open sides of our garden. We've been constructing it out of durable black locust wood that we've been harvesting locally and milling ourselves. This fence meets the zoning requirement, although in our opinion it does not do much for anything that our activities or mission is trying to accomplish other than delineate the property line. We plan to use stone piers and picket gates like the example shown. And these are actual samples of the fence on our site. We've already constructed over half of the components necessary to build this fence. We wanted to build the fence 1 foot from the sidewalk. This is pretty common. You know, we always assumed that our property line was here anyway, and when you look up and down High Street, there are numerous examples of other front yard fences built 1 foot from the sidewalk. When we found the property pins, we were surprised to learn that the right-of-way is much wider than typical and extends 6 feet further into our property, 7 foot from the sidewalk. On a call with zoning enforcement this May, I was told that any of our garden beds and plantings that were encroaching in the right-of-way needed to be removed, or to work with real estate on a vacation of the right-of-way. The area in question eliminates 25% of the viable space that we have to garden on. This is our sunny southern exposure, that 7 foot stretch along High Street and much wider on 23rd and 24th is a large percentage of the economically viable space to grow things on. We have several raised beds here, we have fruit trees, we have grapes and hops, we have pollinator plantings. None of these encroach into the vision clearances or further to the sidewalk than is normal in this area. Our request today is for the city to vacate and convey a strip of land 6 feet wide along High Street and 8 feet wide along the other 2 sides. I'm not sure where the 10 foot came from. It's 8 foot is our request. I believe in an early conversation with real estate, we had requested 10 foot, but we identified that the only public utility that exists on our side of the sidewalk is this red line, 1 electrical line that runs from this telephone pole into the front right-of-way. All the way along High Street, the only public utility in this right now is 1 Google fiber wire, and it's located in a reasonable location between the service berries and the sidewalk. I know this because we've had locates done. We were ready to go on this fence months ago. Our request today is for the city to vacate and convey this strip of land for our urban garden. This is unused right-of-way. There are no public utilities or city infrastructure of any kind here. This allows us to build the required fence at a reasonable location and keep our existing garden structures. In a prior conversation with real estate, I was told that the reason that traffic and transportation wanted to keep this area would be to potentially widen High Street in the future. If that is not necessary and is not even considered, I see no reason why this couldn't be sold to me at a fair market price. As presented to me, the right-of-way license is unnecessarily burdensome and completely unreasonable in this situation. The right-of-way license, all of the information on the website and what I'm hearing tonight, this is geared for large utilities, corporations like Google who come in and want to install infrastructure in our city. Just the application fee on the website is $500 for the first year and $200 annually going forward. It requires me to have unnecessarily high commercial liability insurance and onerous paperwork continually to renegotiate with the city and present before council, only guaranteeing a maximum of 5 years of certainty. Furthermore, there are numerous examples up and down High Street of neighbors who have private infrastructure in this unused right-of-way. This is less than a block from my property on both sides. I'm not aware of any of these neighbors needing to pay rent for the city to have this infrastructure. And furthermore, I've been told that when High Street was built in 2009 and 2010, that most of this infrastructure was put back at the city's expense following the reconstruction, even though it was knowingly encroaching on the right-of-way that the city owns. All of these homeowners think that this is their front yard, their fence, their planter boxes, and they're maintaining it as such. On behalf of the Woodland Realm and all of those who benefit from this urban garden space, thank you for considering our request.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the, call the meeting to order, please. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Can I get one clarification from city? I mean, the statement's made that the fences were taken out and then put back by the city. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able to answer a construction project question that happened. I mean, I don't know, have any information regarding that, but before we lose the applicant, I think we should ask him any questions you might have.
Brian, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One, do you have an expected cost for paying for the vacation for, if you were to get the vacation of the right-of-way, what would be the cost to you?
To purchase that land?
Yes.
I haven't discussed that with real estate. The right-of-way that we were vacated and granted in October costed me $213, including the warranty deed, for this vacated alleyway, 100 feet by 14 feet.
Okay.
I would expect the per square footage cost to be similar.
Okay. And then is Woodland Realm purely a community space, or is there a nonprofit attached to it?
We do not have a nonprofit status currently, although we sometimes have worked with the Avenues or our neighborhood association about conversations about becoming a fiscal sponsor. So if people were wanting to donate to a nonprofit, we could work through them on a collaborative event or something like that.
Okay. So currently the land is owned by you?
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. If the city was to sell this property to you, but keep the same area in an easement, would that be acceptable?
I believe that's being required. I don't think I'm given an option of purchasing this without an easement.
Okay, so you still kind of have the same risk that the city could come back and want to install utilities there, right? Either way, that risk remains. Am I understanding
I
this
haven't been
properly?
informed of the specifics of an easement or what that would mean, but it was stated that if a vacation was granted, that would be required in this space.
So I guess to the city then, if there's an easement there, you can still come back and install pipes or whatever.
That's a potential risk, yeah.
But to re-clarify the question, if there is an easement, you're okay accepting the risk of them coming back for the purpose of utility, and there would be damage to what's going on, but you wouldn't have the risk that the fence would be gone because it would be your property there. But I think
Yeah.
her question is, you're okay with an easement going through, right? Or not?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have faith that engineering would be reasonable about where they're placing utilities and not unnecessarily use that easement if it's not needed, but I'm comfortable with it.
The decision to ask for a vacation instead of a license then ultimately came down to the cost?
The cost and all of the other factors that I mentioned. I mean, we've been put through the ringer for over a year on zoning items here, and to think that we're going to have to continually renegotiate year after year, there's no certainty of price or what predictability I would have over the long term of that investment. I mean, we're putting a $10,000 fence in and expected to just trust that every year or two we'd be granted, the right to own that, but we're also expected to maintain it over the entire lifetime. So it came down to a lot of factors, but I want the certainty and predictability that it's going to be a worthwhile investment. And yeah, the other factors I mentioned earlier, the paperwork, the insurance, unnecessarily high insurance for what we're doing here, the mental stress, honestly, of having to plead and defend my urban garden annually or every 3 years, maximum of 5, maybe. There's no certainty there.
I'd like to follow up the question that my colleague here on the right asked quite a few minutes ago about the fence itself. We don't have anything to do with design right now, but the picture that you saw that presented of the post and pole, as it were, fence, is that something that you're considering to do in terms of the construction? And I ask because it seems to have transparency in it, which is appealing to me rather than something that's opaque.
Right. As I mentioned, this is the actual fence components that we've already created and are ready to install. We have over half of the 600 linear feet made. This is on my garden, and you're correct, it is open. That's a requirement of the code. As I said earlier, it's very strict as to what type of fence would be allowed here because we don't have a primary structure. Our entire property has been deemed front yard. So we can only have a 3-foot or under fence, primarily open, built out of solid wood. We're not allowed to have chain link or mesh fencing or T-bars or anything that would be more cost affordable. We had to apply for an exception to build the privacy fence that we built along the north property line.
If it was like a 100-year, $1 lease that they were willing to give you, does that answer some of your concerns, or the insurance piece is still there, or what would be other issues there? So if the city said, we'll give it to you, we'll do a license for 100 years, $1, does that solve the issues you have, or there's still issues that would linger there?
A 100-year lease for $1? Sure. I mean, yeah, I think if there's like a reasonable amount of certainty, I mean, the materials I'm using, I think I'm building a 30 or 40-year fence out of solid black locust. I'd like at least the lifetime of the fence to be, if I'm expected to maintain it that whole time, I don't want to ever have to remove it.
So that, because you also identified there's insurance issues or other items, but if they said $100 for a year, you're good. I'm sorry, 100 years for $1.
Is this an actual negotiation?
Other way, sorry. I was trying to get you to admit the other one.
I'm here today because I'm asking for a vacation and conveyance of the land, and that's my highly preferred option.
Gotcha.
And I don't think we have any, as a commission, we don't have any input on what the negotiations for a license would be, so we wouldn't be able to.
No, understood, but I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding it sounds like these are always negotiations. I just want to figure out what the issues would be as we're going forward with the recommendation, because it seems, sorry, I know we're discussing later, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding what the positions are of both parties, just so we can be fully informed of where we're trying to get to and what paths we have accessible to us.
Any other question for the applicant? Thank you, Ryan. Can you please sign in on the white sheet?
Thank you.
Now we'll open it up to any people that are in favor of this project. If you would like to speak, you can come up to the podium. Please state your name and address. And don't forget to sign in afterwards. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Annie Salgado. I live at 675 27th Street in Woodland Heights, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Ryan Francois and the community garden on the north stretch of High Street between 23rd and 24th Streets. First, I would like to point out the good faith efforts that Mr. Francois has made to be in compliance, including building quite a nice shed, the halting of public events, and the persistent and procedurally appropriate petitions to the city. While I understand the responsibility this committee bears to the well-being of this city, I fear that due to the exceptional nature of Mr. Francois' property, that he is subject to a stricter interpretation of the ordinances, which the properties on either side of him are not. Specifically, the assertion that he is unduly encroaching on the public right-of-way when the homes along the stretch, as he has pointed out, have their own permanent structures right up against the sidewalk, which surely presents its own issues regarding utilities, which, to my knowledge, has not come to pass, nor, as we have heard this evening, are there any plans to do so. Furthermore, to deny his request could shut down the garden for months, which, as we head towards winter, would effectively close the space for at least the rest of the calendar year, and cut down on the space considerably. Not only that, but the garden represents significant effort and money, the investment of which would have been all for naught if he has to reorganize his entire plot of land to accommodate this incursion. Finally, it represents a vote of no confidence from the city into the agency of Woodland Heights and its citizens to beautify and improve our home. Despite all this, Mr. Francois has transformed an empty lot into a beautiful, manicured, and productive space. The benefits of a community garden are almost too many to name and include a reduction in vagrancy and crime, a decrease in dementia, depression, and obesity, and an increase in openness, optimism, connectedness, cognitive function, and self-esteem by participants, increased access to local and healthy food, specifically a much higher food security and nutrition scores, and increased property values. Community gardens also represent a physical investment into the future of the city, a way for citizens to personally engage in their communities. Any licensing agreement would make it impossible for this community to make any long-term investment and growth, including in the maturation of trees and other crops. Finally, despite the stress and frustration of this moment, I'd like to leave you with the observation that we are all here because in an apathetic world, a community led by this man is asking for a chance to add beauty, camaraderie, and nourishment to our neighborhood. He is not seeking undue leniency, but rather the opportunity to work even more for Woodland Heights and for Des Moines. Therefore, I ask you to affirm his request for a vacation of right-of-way for the relevant land to continue his mission to improve my neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If you could please sign in on the white sheet. Thank you.
Yes, hello. My name is Marshall James. I'm the president of the North of Grand Neighborhood Association. We border Woodland Heights directly to the west and are, for the purposes of Des Moines City, considered a special investment district with Woodland Heights. So members of our residents in our neighborhood feel a deep sense of camaraderie and neighborliness with the citizens of Woodland Heights, and we spend a lot of time over there, especially since our neighborhood does not have a park. So Chamberlain Park, which exists in Woodland Heights, is kind of our park too. And luckily within walking distance of Chamberlain Park, which has a playground, is the Woodland Realm. So it's kind of a 2 for the price of 1 if you're taking your kid out to play on a nice day. We, the elected board members of the North of Grand Neighborhood Association, offer our strongest support to the Woodland Realm Urban Garden, and we support this project as it seeks to purchase right-of-way land from the city, vacation of the right-of-way from the city in order to secure the garden's continued existence in our community. We further urge the Planning and Zoning Commissions, as well as any other bodies representing the city of Des Moines, to work with the Woodland Realm and its team of gardeners and builders to maintain it and to help it thrive, not to hinder it. The North of Grand neighborhood values community and real safety, and these values are represented in the Woodland Realm project. Since its construction, the Realm has provided a community space that is welcoming, creative, educational, and playful. Residents of our neighborhood have participated in various events hosted by the Realm, and the praise for this community asset is universal. Our modern city landscape is dominated by shop fronts, office buildings, parking lots, and roads, and so a green space filled with art and living plants and good conversations with neighbors is a welcome respite. We want more projects like the Woodland Realm, not less. We fear that actions being taken against the Woodland Realm will cause it to shut down and we will lose this valuable community asset. Therefore, the North of Grand Neighborhood Association affirms our strong support of the Woodland Realm and its continued flourishing. We want our children to be able to play outside, to enjoy nature, and to wander through the community, and we hope that the City of Des Moines will help enable this reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and don't forget to sign in afterwards.
Zachary Flick, 1155 Office Park Road, longtime resident of the Des Moines proper area, neighbor to the west, the Middlesex Plat, 3516 Rollins Avenue for 18 years, 654 34th Street for a couple more. I come here today urging the board to consider another man in a neighborhood just blocks away from this situation. Hoyt Sherman Place. Sure you've all been there at least once, yeah? So imagine me coming to you to let you know that next time you go, don't worry about it. 25% of it's gone, but you'll enjoy the rest. That look right there, that's what these people have. All these people. That look, that gut-wrenching feel of losing 25% of Hoyt Sherman Place. That's not cool. There are times in our communities where Hoyt Sherman Places happen. We don't notice it happening in front of us, but 100 years from now, that's the value that you're adding today by vacating for this man to push forward with all these people and the ones that couldn't show up. To not discourage community outreach and development. To bring people together to beautify our land. We've already established the city has no plans for this. Why use his story to discourage others who are going to hear about the red tape, the constant beratement from government oversight? I love you all, don't worry, I'm not talking about you. But hear me out. It's not just one case here. It will ripple out one way or another from this moment. It will either encourage more of what this man's doing, or it will discourage it. And I'm pretty positive, not knowing any of you, I do know that you have an interest in the development of this city. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And what kind of city do you want to look forward to? More utility of development? Or the pictures he showed you of all those flowers, the gardens, and little kids running around like they're Kiss? I urge you to vacate. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Don Francis.
You have up to 5 minutes, and then sign in afterwards.
4329 48th Street, Des Moines. He mentioned the little kids. I'm 63 years old. There was a gathering at the Woodland Realm, and I don't know, can I put a picture here? Project? I don't know how to do it.
Yes, we'll set it up. Set it down.
There's smile on these faces. There's smile on these faces. I took my neighbor, 76-year-old, Mr. Lawrence Cooper. We went to the Midsummer Gathering last year. It was a fabulous event at the Woodland Realm. Did it show up?
It just takes
Warm
a
it up.
second.
So the city of Des Moines, so I'm a gardener myself, and I raise food. It's important to raise food.
It's ready for you. Sorry to interrupt.
So this is a mural that they have at the Woodland Realm. Sorry, can't zoom in there, but we got a smile on our faces. They had a bingo game, the Woodland Realm bingo game. There's things on there that you do. I'll read some of them. I know this doesn't have anything to do with the fence, but it's just the whole concept of what Mr. Francois is trying to do. Infuse honey with acorns. These are events that you could do there. There was families there. There was kids there. Make a s'more. Get your face painted. Hike up the hillside trails. Look for the vineyard. Create a collage with Nolan. Paint a rock to take home and put in your garden. Just all these great events, and I'm like, this is great because, you know, they're raising food. They're creating community, and I just would, you know, I don't like the infractions that they're putting on him. And one more picture, if I can find it, and I'll let other people. See that basket? 80% of that came from that 5-foot, 6-foot area that we've been talking about tonight. Local food. I'm a gardener. I do a farmer's market in Johnston. Just came from the state fair where I got 150 vegetable exhibits there. And I would, you know, this is just, it's fabulous what they're doing there with the urban gardens. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's not just little kids, and it's not, you know, young people are learning about gardening and bees and pollinators, and it's important to grow our own food, and I love the concept of urban gardens.
Anyone else in favor, feel free to come up. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address and sign in afterwards.
My name's Jordan Kaufman. My address is 2825 School Street. I am a neighbor of the Realm neighborhood. Before this meeting, I looked up the City of Des Moines comp plan, the guide DSM, and it says on there that the Des Moines city government mission, there are 4 bullet points of the city's mission. To be financially strong, to provide exceptional municipal services, to be customer friendly, and to promote an involved community. The Woodland Realm is one of the best examples of local community organizing and revitalization efforts that I've ever seen in Des Moines, and I've lived here my whole life. The Friends of the Realm have taken a vacant and overgrown lot and turned it into a thriving community garden which grows food and provides a sanctuary for friends and guests to gather. There are entire organizations, numerous of them, throughout the city and the metro area who strive and struggle at great financial and organizational expense to attain the kind of commitment and buy-in that the Friends of the Realm demonstrate and have for years. We talked some about the history of how this all came about, but to me, why the city planning department would identify this group of people in this parcel of land and not only demand compliance, but then double down repeatedly on a hostile interpretation of regulations and policies, I don't understand, because that flies in the face of these values that it says all over the City of Des Moines comp plan website, all of that. And it's not how you build community. It's not how you provide exceptional customer municipal services, and it's not customer friendly. The application of the zoning code in this case and the previous denial of the variance, which could have put this to rest before it came this far, just, it doesn't align with those values. And it appears that the city has continued over and over again to protect the city's own possible, potential future interest maybe, or the potential interest of a future, maybe future developer, rather than the person who is the person in the community who have stepped up to be stewards of that land and who have given so much into the neighborhood. Community is not built by shallow and pedantic adherence to rules and regulations. And this type of action, getting into, falling down a rabbit hole and tunneling into another one of compliance, is a really good example of a hostile regulatory environment. And that doesn't align with what the city says that it wants. It's not it's why there are task force. It's why there's a food security task force to look for rules and regulations that the city is applying that are creating a hostile environment for people who want to grow food. If you choose to deny the petition's request to acquire the right-of-way, again, how does it align with the goals that the city purports to espouse? And by denying the access to the right-of-way, the city only further solidifies a bunch of cumbersome regulations and policies it says it wants to fix for the benefit of the citizens and the taxpayers of this city.
Thank you. Please don't forget to sign in. Thank you.
Nehemiah Bardurian. I'm at 1646 Beaver Avenue. This is a or a trophy that my daughter won at the Woodland Realm at a Halloween competition a few years ago. She got the yallest of the ball. She was a jumping spider, and it was super cute. I'm here to voice my support for the Woodland Realm. The owners of this land have cared for it and built a community around urban agriculture and community meals. I've had a chance to attend a few gatherings with my family and on my own, and I can tell you that these are quality people who are invested in the land and the community that they are building. They are excellent stewards of the land. They are not party people. Instead, they share their knowledge and their produce and their bounty. My child has had wonderful memories of our times there. It has been a safe place for her to explore and learn with other kids. I want to encourage you to sell them the necessary land to not require them to destroy what they have already invested in their plot. If we are truly such a proud agricultural state, then we desperately need to share what passion and knowledge at every level that we have for agriculture. We should not shy away from fostering new lifeblood into our communities. Please support their efforts and allow something unique to grow.
Thank you. Don't forget your trophy.
Hello, my name is Cassandra Spence. I am a neighbor on High Street. I live at 3021 High Street down by 31st Street. I have felt ever so lucky to be able to attend many of the events at the Woodland Realm, and my family also has really enjoyed it as well. We have a toddler about the same age, so we ended up meeting there, and it's been a wonderful experience for our kids, and as he said, a safe space for them to explore kind of this urban woodland area, and it's tiny, but it's just wonderful, and they get the experience to check out the plants that are growing and watch them from seedlings. We constantly are walking over to the park that's right near the corner, and we're always stopping there to see what's happening at the Woodland Realm. It was really sad this year to not be able to attend events because of what is going on with the city and just the delay and them figuring out what can work with everybody. And just as a neighborhood person and a community, we love the Woodland Realm. We really hope that it can continue. I've met a lot of neighbors there, which is hard to do in this day and age because everyone has such a busy schedule. But every time I've gone and met someone new from the street, literally 2 houses down that I'd never met before. And to me, that is that sense of community that we're trying to reiterate in our daily lives. So I really hope that everything can work out and we can keep the Woodland Realm. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Paige Iverson. I live at 672 24th Street. I'm about a block and a half north of the Woodland Realm. In fact, I think you may even have been able to see my house in those aerial images. I have been a resident of the Woodland Heights neighborhood since 2018, and I have been aware of what's been going on with this property since it was purchased by Ryan and Rally Cap Properties. If memory serves correctly, at the time that he wanted to develop the property, the majority of voices in the neighborhood who didn't want that to happen were concerned because the property had been operated as a bird sanctuary by the previous owner, and she sold it because she could no longer maintain it. So people in the neighborhood have loved and appreciated this outdoor community space for many years, even previous to Ryan's ownership of the space. Perhaps it was a fortuitous event, the silver lining of denial of the medium-density housing, a type of housing which, for the record, now exists directly across the street from that property. Yeah, we now have the Woodland Realm, which is something that's beautiful. I've walked by this location regularly since they started gardening there in 2020, and there's always something new there. There's always something interesting to look at. It's always beautiful. Sometimes if I'm having a bad day, I just go walk around in the Woodland Realm, and I feel better being close to nature. Another gentleman spoke about the midsummer event that they had there last summer, and I distinctly remember that event. I had been getting my hair cut at a local salon in our neighborhood on Ingersoll Avenue, and I was going to walk home on the beautiful streetscape that we now have on Ingersoll Avenue, and I got a text message from my husband letting me know, hey, there's an event going on at the Woodland Realm, and I had to pass it to get home anyway, and I passed it, and there are kids running around and playing, and families, and cool things are happening, and just, it's a huge community event. And I think that that whole story shows the best of what our communities can be, that we've invested in the whole Ingersoll and Grand corridor, in the Woodland Heights neighborhood, to make it walkable, to be a place where people utilize local businesses and the owners of local businesses, and where people can come together in their neighborhood, in community, to do things in an outdoor space and know one another. And I think that to unnecessarily impede upon the ability of the community to enjoy a public good that we have created for ourselves, as much as Ryan's created it for all of us, that's something that so clearly the community wants and utilizes, would be an inappropriate use of these particular regulations, especially given that we've already heard that there are no plans in place at the current time to utilize that space for any reason, and we know that the city would be able to place utilities in that location anyway. I think all of us in this neighborhood had Google Fiber put in our yard recently, and I don't think the city asked any of us whether we wanted it or not. It went there. So we all know how that works when a utility needs to go where it needs to go. And so I think it's honestly silly to say that in order for him to own this property, that the city would be unnecessarily impeded in their ability to do things like bury power lines or widen the sidewalk, which is interesting to hear given that there are multiple crumbling sidewalks in our neighborhood, which could use a little bit of help. But overall, the Woodland Realm is an asset to our community. It's clearly beloved by the community, and I think that we all want it to stay and succeed and be able to comply when Ryan has tried so hard to comply with everything he's been asked to do, and granting this vacation will allow him to do so, and I urge you to vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jackson Hopper, and I live at 714 20th Street in Sherman Hill, just across MLK from Woodland Heights, and I'm speaking in favor of a vacation. I moved to Des Moines this summer, and I happened upon this community garden on High Street near my home when I was out on a walk a couple weeks ago, and I was surprised and delighted, and it's made me feel like I'm part of a community. It's now a regular waypoint when I go walking or running around my neighborhood. I love walking in and around my new neighborhood, and I love gardens of all kinds. The woodland realm is something that makes my home a nice place to live, and it makes me proud to live in Des Moines. I would like to see steps taken to make it easier for things like this to exist and not harder. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Elliot Klimowski, 673 41st Street. I live in north of Grand. I'm also on the board there, along with Marshall, who spoke earlier. I'm a little bit of a different genre of speaker. Here as a technical expert and kind of the Jason for a different community in town. I run the P&Z in another city, and it feels good to be at a different one for a change. I wanted to speak really quickly about the idea of the vacation versus the right-of-way licensing. One of the things that occurred to me when taking a look at the staff report prior to this evening is doing the vacation rather than the licensing would provide future certainty about where that property line is going to be and what the right-of-way width is going to be. Across the street to the south, we had townhomes come in that really narrow the streetscape. We had the speed bumps come in on the upper part of the hill. As a former 3-year-long resident of the Saul building, I can certainly attest to the speeding issues that occur on that road. Down the road, if the woodland realm were to go away, as a professional planner, I try to think 40 years in the future. If that use were to go away and the property were developed, having that narrower right-of-way would help bridge the gap in the Vision Zero plan that the city has, provide an opportunity to perhaps mirror the streetscape on the north side. And people naturally slow down in their cars when you narrow a streetscape. It's just something that happens subconsciously, and that's a way that we can hopefully realize the Vision Zero plan in this one block stretch at the bottom of a hill, again, with a lot of redevelopment and high density uses and people out walking. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Irwin. I live at 3906 73rd Street in Urbandale. I'm a former Des Moines urban farmer and current member of the Food Security Task Force. I wanted to remind everybody that the ADAPT DSM plan, which had several planners on the Technical Advisory Committee, recommended strategies like expanding local food production and had metrics including increasing the number of urban farms and community gardens annually, increasing consumption of local foods. These are all goals that the city has. He's doing good work. I would like to speak in favor of the vacation. Sell him that little slip, sell him cheap, and thank him for the work that he's doing to keep our communities in food and healthy. It's more work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't need the, Catherine, don't worry about the computer.
I will make mine short and sweet. How's that sound? My name's David Barzin. I'm president of the Des Moines Historical Society. I'm also a restorer of old homes throughout Des Moines. And Ryan and I both have the same problem. We do tend to go over the top with restoration, spending way more time and way more money on projects than we ever should. But with him and this garden, they asked him to build a shed. Everybody saw the shed in that picture. That was beautiful. It looked like something you'd see in the mountains or something. By him owning the property instead of just leasing it, I'm sure he'll go over the top on whatever fence he's required to build, and talking about locust trees and stone piers and everything else. Again, he's going to have the same problem building the fence as he does working on properties just like I do. So I want you to consider selling the property to him for him to be able to have that as a permanent part of the garden. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Super short. Hi, my name is H. Brandy Newberger. I live at 980 Juniper Drive, actually all the way in Carlisle, Iowa. And I also have a very vested interest in what's going on Ingersoll Avenue area. I am currently on sabbatical, if you've ever worked in the service industry, as a restaurant GM on the 28th and Ingersoll Avenue block. My daughter is a rising junior at Drake University, and she currently works for the Healthy Estate Initiative. So I know you're all familiar with that. I know you're familiar with the work they do. The message I was asked to pass along from her is to allow them to provide resources for folks in Iowa in this community that cannot afford it, as we know that is an issue. But she's not here. I'm not going to speak for her, and I am instead going to speak for my 3-year-old, who is also not here, who helped me discover the realm on accident as we were walking back from Chamberlain Park. So I drive in from Carlisle. We go to Gateway Market. We drive across over to High Street, and we play at Chamberlain Park. He wanted to go for a walk one day, and he found what he discovered as fairyland. I had no idea the Woodland Realm existed. I thought it was a beautifully owned private garden, which it is, and I had no idea that public access was even allowed. However, one day, one of the many days we walked by, and he yells, "It's fairyland, it's fairyland." Somebody walking out of the Woodland Realm said, "Oh, you can come in and look around. It's open to everybody. It's open to anyone." My 3-year-old was walking through and said, "This is just magical, Mommy." Please continue to make it possible for other children to enjoy the magic of the Woodland Realm, the fairyland, by recommending the sale of this unused right-of-way so Ryan, a local investor and builder, may be able to continue this work showcasing community love with less stress and less financial impediment. And as like a last note, if you ever have worked with children or around children, once they get something in their head, all they ever ask for is fairyland. We go anywhere, and he wants to know when we're going back to fairyland. He wants to go there instead of the Blank Park Zoo. He wants to go there instead of the Science Center. He wants to go there instead of the Dome. Please consider the sale, recommending the sale of the land.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Lisher. I live at 675 27th Street, just a couple blocks away from the garden. A lot of people have spoken about the garden, but tonight I'm going to speak about Ryan himself and what a pillar of the community he is. When I first started getting involved with my community, one of the first things that I remember hearing was, "You got to check out with the Woodland Realm, and you really need to meet Ryan and see the amazing things that he's doing." And it did not disappoint. Right now, I am getting more involved in my community, and kind of to convey some of the other things that I've heard from people through my work with Invest ESM and being on the steering committee. We've had a lot of kitchen table conversations with other people in the community, and frequently they bring up Ryan and the great work that he's doing. People like this in the community are rare. People who want to invest this much into the community are rare, and I really urge you to not dissuade them from making those investments. So allowing him to buy this land from the city, make sure that he stays with our community and he continues to invest in it. And that's really all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Philip Gustafson, 1150 14th Place. You know, that property where he's got that garden there has come a long ways. I remember before he started doing it, working on it, you know, it was hard for whoever was, you know, to maintain it before. It looks so nice now. My son, I have a 5-year-old, he likes to go to Chamberlain Park pretty frequently. And he does like to walk around in the little forest up the road. He has a great time in it. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it at all, you know, but you know, people look at city government a lot as red tape, city government, we got a good deal with them, you know, okay, you know. Make it different. Do better. I know you can. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is April Clark, 2724 High Street, so a neighbor. As an urban farmer in Des Moines, it's scary to see this happen. Like, this isn't the first time. I'd really encourage you guys to consider the sale of a property. Just looking at what happened to Sweet Tooth as well on the licensing and, like, you know, property leasing and what got pulled from them as well. I'd really like to see Des Moines thrive with local food, not lose more properties like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Catherine Porter, and I live at 821 30th Street in the Woodland Heights neighborhood. And while I'm here representing myself and my own opinions today, I am also a member of the Woodland Heights Board. I'm the current secretary. And so I really look at this from what are the long-term benefits or possible really bad repercussions of not approving this. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and then tell you how it relates to this. I live on a street that terminates with a freeway sound barrier. The state owns a 20 by 20 triangle of my front yard. During the pandemic, my spouse and I spent a lot of money to get a garden plan, a garden plan. So we wanted to put a fence and a significant amount of planting in our front yard, including a tree. That tree we never put in, the fence we never put in, and we will not put it in because that is in land that the state owns. Lucky for us, the state doesn't care about that land the way that the city cares about this particular right-of-way, apparently. We also have a 9x4 garden bed that is also on this right-of-way that the state owns. I will be incredibly sad if it gets torn out. But it's okay, right? I built it before I knew. I will not invest any more money into this area though, right? I'm not gonna put any more money into my property where I don't have financial security for it. So ultimately, for me, that means that I am choosing not to try to increase my home value with landscaping, okay? So how that relates to the woodland realm is very similar. It is an undue burden on Ryan and Rally Cap to ask them to either reduce their land and put a fence along their property line, or to put a fence within the right-of-way and risk it being torn down, okay? So over the way that relates into the whole neighborhood is impacts to property values, right? What if Ryan says, I'm not doing this. It's not worth it anymore. It is not worth me continuing to spend money and fight the city. Well, then that means what? The property goes back to just being trees, maybe grass, maybe weeds, but weeds below 12 feet so he doesn't get a fine, or 12 inches. That reduces property values. That is not what I want to see for our neighborhood. So that is above and beyond the community that you have heard about. I also sit on the Woodland Heights North of Grand Steering Committee for InvestDSM with Ryan. And the number one thing that we have heard is that our neighbors want community. They want ways to interact more with their neighbors. The Woodland Realm is making that possible for our neighborhood. And again, that increases the value of our neighborhood because we are then more attractive to people who want to live there. So beyond the community and the zoning, I ask you to consider vacating the right-of-way so that it can improve my neighborhood within the city of Des Moines.
Thank you. Are there any individuals in opposition of this project who would like to speak tonight? Please come up, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and then you can sign in afterwards.
Hi, Commissioner, Commission. My name's Robert Hanson. I live at 2132 Olive Avenue. My father's lived in the neighborhood since 1987. I've lived in the neighborhood since 2009. I've worked with the city on numerous projects on my house, numerous empty lots I've bought, all in Woodland Heights. I have taken out numerous permits for all of my properties. I've tore down houses that were dilapidated, cleaned up the lots, built a $500,000 home, which I recently sold and moved into the next door one that I had also bought. So I am completely vested in the neighborhood, and I drive by the Woodland realm all the time, which I'm not against. I'm not against the Woodland realm. What I am concerned about is when you come down 24th Street to High Street, the visibility there is about zero with all of the traffic that parks that the city has allowed to park on that High Street. When they have events or gatherings, I've noticed that there's a lot of illegal parking going on the side streets. I drive through that intersection on a good day a half a dozen times. When you're heading south or coming north, you cannot see beyond the parked cars. You have to pull out into the intersection in order to cross High Street. And usually the people on High Street, whether it's MediaCom vans or just residents or people cutting through on there, now Woodland is closed by the cemetery, they're using it more. They're going anywhere from 35 to 40 miles an hour. There are children in the neighborhood, obviously. I heard a lot of discussion about how good the realm is for families and all that. I'm not trying to take away the realm. I'm trying to look at, if you put a fence right against that sidewalk, and the city does want to widen that sidewalk to 6 feet, where are they going to go? They're going to go back towards the street, or are they going to use that right-of-way? The other thing, it will more visually impair drivers that go through that intersection every day. And I had to build fences on my properties. Ryan has done how many houses here? He knows the ins and outs of what is required by the city. I'm sure he's built some fences and had to look at property lines, and now he wants this. If he gets it, great. I'm not going to fight it anymore, but what I do say is with that fence there, even though you can see through the fence, it just causes more of a visual impact that you cannot cross that intersection safely. He owns the lot on the other side of that 24th and High Street, and from the visuals that I've seen here, he's going to have to move 5 or 6 above-ground planters. He can move them over to that other lot. He does have areas where they have picnic tables. And last, I see a lot of people here that don't live in the neighborhood coming in. They don't even live in town. They enjoy the space, I get it. But that 6-foot and 8-foot variance around that is not going to make that much difference to keep it back, to keep it away. And regarding all of the chain link fences that are along there, and the city, when they did do previous projects and had to return that stuff and landscaping, most of those fences are so old, they were not built originally when the city had all the permit and development plans in place. Most of them, those houses, are pretty dilapidated, and the chain link fences were probably put in the late 60s, early 70s. So they've been there forever. So I just think that with that and everything that everyone has said, the main thing for me is that visual when I drive through there all the time. And that's all I got to say. I guess
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in opposition who would like to speak? Anyone neutral? Seeing none, the applicant does have a 5-minute rebuttal, if they would like to use that.
Thank you. Just to address this gentleman's concern about visibility, that's the reason the code is there for front yard fences. Our proposed distance from the curb is well within a reasonable range for all of the residential streets surrounding this area, and the fence that we're building complies 100% with the code that's in place for front yard fences and visibility. It's open, it's built out of solid wood, and it's under 3 feet in height. It's not a visibility concern. We also plan to angle the corners to make it even more visible on the potential site clearance triangles, even though we're already outside of the standard 15-foot for that clearance triangle. That's to address visibility. I also just wanted to ask, for the record, can we please go back to the comments from people who were not able to be here tonight but submitted letters? They skimmed through over 60 pages of letters that were written, many of them by neighbors who are not able to come tonight, but wrote in response. I want to at least know the number of neighbors who responded in support.
Thank you. With that, while Suryoshi pulls that up, we can go ahead and close the public hearing and let the commissioners discuss.
I guess, regarding the scope of the remit tonight, I'm strongly inclined to support denying staff's recommendation and instead grant the vacation of the proposed for the purpose of enabling the sale of the vacated land being requested, and why I've got 2 points on it. The first is, putting my equity hat on, I am a little concerned we're proposing putting 25% of the economic viability of a citizen's plot of land into a level of uncertainty we'd likely not support if the applicant were advocating for some different type of project. That's just how I would see this right here. It just seems we got 2 different types of uses, and we're putting a different standard of economic uncertainty on them, and especially with the types of margins in this, that doesn't seem fair to me. The second one is, and I think it echoes in some of the comments that were made, I am further concerned that many of the issues highlighted in the packet on this item exist because we've failed to provide clear strategic guidance to our community on how we want to support the economic viability of these types of projects in a densifying city, which is another very, very important part of what our balance is. I think it's a concern also here that I reflect potentially ad nauseum on what is now a 34-month odyssey to get 134.372 improved, so we can demonstrate to our community how we want to responsibly grow economically viable urban farming. So given these issues that I have, again, I would very, very strongly support vacation with an easement versus forcing this to go through something where they're investing in a long-term license with the uncertainty that's there. So.
Thank you, Chris.
I agree with you, Chris, for all the reasons you said so eloquently. I don't think the city is in a bad position here if it is vacated because of the easement, so I feel like it's really not going to be an issue for them if they do need the right-of-way at some point. They'll just use the easement.
Is that a motion?
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move. How do we phrase it? We don't deny.
No, it's approval of the request.
Approval of the request, right, because we don't deny staff. So I move approval of the request.
Okay. Unless there's additional discussion before we get ready to vote, I do want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and for sharing your comments. With that, we do have a motion on the table to deny staff, no.
To approve the request.
To approve the request. If, yes, sorry about that.
But that's technically what you're doing.
To approve the request in front of us today. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? The same sign. Motion passes. Just as a reminder for the public tonight, this is just a recommendation. It will go in front of the City Council for their approval or denial. With that, we'll move on to item number 4 tonight, which is a request from Alicia LLC for the following regarding property located at 3718 Southwest 9th Street. A, determination as to whether the requested rezoning is in conformance with the Plan DSM. B, to rezone the property from RX1 mixed-use district to MX3 mixed-use district to allow liquor sales at an existing fuel station. Ms. Hiroyoshi will be presenting from staff.
Thank you, Chair Sreyoshi Chakraborty, planning staff. I'm going to be presenting this request from property owner at 3718 Southwest 9th Street. The request is to rezone the property from RX1 mixed-use district to MX3 mixed-use district, which would allow the applicant to sell alcoholic liquor at an existing fuel station. This is the subject property. It's on Southwest 9th Street at the intersection of Rose Avenue. This is on the stretch of Southwest 9th between Watrous Avenue and East Park Avenue. The uses generally along the corridor is light commercial in nature. There is residential immediately adjacent to the commercial corridor. There is an existing gas station on the site and convenience store, and it's currently zoned RX1 district. I have some pictures to give you a context of the area. This is the subject property with the existing gas station. This is looking west on Rose Avenue. As you can see, it's in close proximity to single-family residential area, which is immediately to the west of the subject property. And this is looking south on Southwest 9th. As you can see, it's Southwest 9th is a corridor which has light commercial uses, so it's not as heavy as you might see in some of the other corridors that have more MX3 type uses, which are a little bit more intense. There are commercial uses, but they are not as intense as you might see in an MX3 district. So again, moving back to the request, the reason the applicant is here is because they have an existing gas station / convenience store. They are currently a legal non-conforming use in the RX1 district. They are selling wine and beer. They want to add alcoholic liquor to that, and that requires that they get the property rezoned to MX3 and get a conditional use from the Zoning Board of Adjustment in order to be able to sell alcoholic liquor at the site. So that is the request in question. Staff has reviewed this request, and there's a couple things that I did want to point out here under the staff rationale that you may have looked at, but I just wanted to elaborate that. So in order to be able to sell alcoholic liquor, the applicant has to seek a conditional use from the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and one of the criterias in order to be able to receive that conditional use is that any property that is selling alcoholic liquor should be at least 500 feet from certain uses, and these uses include a church or place of worship, a school, public park, or licensed child care facility. So these particular uses are outlined here in the staff report. The subject property is within 180 feet of a church, which is just to the south of the subject site on Southwest 9th. And so the property essentially doesn't meet that separation distance requirement that is necessary in order to be able to get a conditional use from the Board of Adjustment, and therefore staff believes that the rezoning to MX3 in order for the applicant to seek the conditional use should not be granted. In addition, I mentioned the character of Southwest 9th. Southwest 9th is a commercial corridor. However, the uses along Southwest 9th are more along the nature of uses that are allowed in the RX1 district, which are slightly less intense. And therefore, we feel that the MX3 designation for this particular property and the use is not appropriate. For these particular reasons, staff is recommending denial of the rezoning request to MX3. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting as required by our rezoning process. They had 3 attendants at the neighborhood meeting. They provided us a summary, and the summary also includes the feedback from the attendees. And generally, the attendees were all in support of the applicant being able to sell alcoholic liquor and to be able to rezone to MX3. And I will just go through these. And we did receive a comment card in opposition to this rezoning request from a neighbor that's within our notification boundary. And this is the consent map, which shows the opposition as well as the percentage in opposition. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Will?
Shiroshi, where is the church? Could you show us where it is? And I didn't see it in the photos that you showed.
Yes, so the church is, you can see it down here. It's on Southwest 9th. You can see part of it down here. It's zoned P2. So if you measure the distance from the property line of the subject site to the church boundary, it's roughly 182 or so feet.
So Yoshi, it looks like the church was within the boundary of the notifications. Did you happen to receive anything from them?
We did not receive any comments from them.
Thank you.
One of the comment cards said that they currently sell wine and beer. So this is just to add liquor to that, hard liquor to that?
Yes, they are a legal non-conforming use. They are not a fuel station. Selling wine and beer is not allowed in the RX1 district, but they are selling because they have the grandfathered rights. However, if they wanted to add liquor to it, they would have to rezone to the correct district and get the conditional use.
Any other questions for staff?
In the report, it said that in order to get the conditional use to sell liquor, you have to be a certain distance from a church, so they wouldn't be able to get a conditional liquor license under state law? Is that what the report says?
That's correct. When they go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the board considers certain criteria that the applicant will have to meet in order to be able to get the conditional use approval, and this is one of the criteria that they will not meet, the separation distance.
And that, just to clarify, that's the conditional use approval, that's city zoning, that's separate from liquor license and state regulation?
But they don't have any discretion. It's like a hard rule, correct?
The variance, or the separation requirement?
Yeah.
The only way to have it reduced or waived would be to grant a variance, which has a very high threshold. They're not approved very frequently because you have to show that you have no other reasonable alternative, which you could reasonably make income here other ways.
Shiroshi, is there any other gas stations similar to this along the corridor or nearby that allow liquor sales?
There is I believe there's a Casey's just to the north of this particular property. I cannot tell you for sure if they have alcohol sales or not, but there is similar gas station type uses along the corridor.
That do not allow liquor sales. This just reminds me of the gas station or the coffee shop gas station that came up that was on Park Avenue last year, where typically gas stations are not allowed to sell hard liquor.
They, again, I wanted to just take a step backward. They could make a request to sell alcohol, liquor, wine, and beer. They would just need to be in the proper designated district that allows it and get the conditional use that allows them to be able to do the sales. And typically, a gas station type use, even with alcohol sales, could be appropriate for this particular corridor, but it just depends on the nature and the scale, and the uses along Southwest 9th are just not, unless they happen to be a pre-existing use that's grandfathered in, it's just not, doesn't fit the character of what the corridor is designated for.
And again, we also know that they won't hit, they can't, even if the rezoning is approved, they will not, they would not be able to get the conditional use approval without a variance, because they do not meet the separation requirement.
Right.
So why exactly are we sitting here with this then?
Well, because it gives them the opportunity to go ask, yeah.
So just to make sure, so we have to deny it to give them access to the next step, even though we know they won't make it to the next step?
No, they need to first seek the rezoning to MX3. Once they are rezoned to the correct district, then they have to get the conditional use, so it's a two-step process.
It's not a use variance, it should just would be a variance of that separation requirement, which doesn't require a rezone. I'll
Okay.
leave it at that, I think.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I will invite the applicant to present. If you would like to come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 10 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Shazi and I'm operating the store that named Southwest Mart located at 3718 Southwest 9th Street, Des Moines. I'm here to proposing the allowance of liquor license to the gas station. This initiative aims to enhance consumer convenience, increase local revenue, and ensure responsible alcohol sales within our community. Consumer convenience, allowing liquor sales at the gas station creates a one-stop shop experience to the residents and the travelers. This convenience is increasingly desired by consumers who prefer to purchase fuel, groceries, and other items. Economic benefits. Introducing liquor sales at the gas station has the potential to significantly boost local revenue. This can be achieved through increased sales tax revenue for the departments. By adding liquor to our commission, we can enhance our offering, attract new customers, ultimately contribute to our local economy. Emphasize to the gas station commitment to responsible business practices, such as we are checking IDs, limiting sales during certain hours, and preventing overconsumption. We never have any violation, never have any tickets like that. At the recent neighborhood meeting, we presented a proposal to add liquor license to the local gas station, sparking a discussion among residents about the potential impact of the change on our community. This proposal was a focus on responsible business practices, safety measures, and community engagement. During the meeting, we emphasized the gas station commitment to upholding responsible business practices in the event of adding liquor sales. In addition, so that addition is not just about expanding our offering. It's about doing so responsibly and ensuring that we prioritize the well-being of our community. And also, I want to add one more thing. Across street, there is a bar who are offering the liquor, and that I just want to know why they are like selling that area is under like maybe 30 feet, and my gas station is under 180 feet. So that's the thing I want to know about that. Thank you for the considering this proposal. I appreciate the time and the effort for the community and the reviewing this initiative. I just want to get like the special permit. I'm ready to like put some small racks, separate room, anything like that. I just want to add that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this project? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and you can sign in afterwards.
Yeah, I'm the owner of the property, Alicia LLC. So I'm leasing to him, so that's why he's trying to be getting the, I'm supporting him, his request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of this request? Anyone in opposition? Anyone neutral? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and let the commission deliberate.
Where's the nearest other RX3?
MX3?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke, apologies. Yeah, where's the other nearest MX3?
Let me.
I guess I'm more trying to figure out, like, does this actually go against the strategy of the corridor so significantly because everything else is a long ways away that it really doesn't make sense for future use? Or is this something where there is one right around the corner and we should?
No, there's not, there is MX3 on the corridor, but I would need a little more time to measure it out. But there's nothing in close proximity. And that Casey's is actually a PUD that's from the grandfather, or not grandfather, but from the old code that, we pulled PUDs forward, we're not doing new ones. That, is it beer and wine? Okay.
And is the bar kitty corner, is that something that's grandfathered?
I'm assuming it's probably been there grandfathered.
Okay, it's been there a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's in an R, it looks like it's in an RX1 too.
Yeah.
I move staff.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any additional comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Any neutral? Abstentions?
No, I think she
All right.
said yeah.
Motion
Wasn't
to...
very strong, but I saw it.
It was strong.
Okay.
Not strong, you're right.
Motion passes. That brings us on to our last item for the evening, which is a request from BTD Properties LLC regarding the subdivision of a lot located at 913 24th Street into two parcels for the following. A, an appeal of a denied plat of survey in accordance with city code with a proposed lot depth of 69.2 feet for the eastern lot and 86 feet for the western lot, where the minimum required average depth is 100 feet per city code. And B, to review of the following denied type 1 design alternatives in accordance with city code. Type 1 design alternative to allow front yard setback of 20 feet for the eastern lot and 39.6 feet for the western lot, where the minimum required front yard setback for a House D building type is 25 feet per city code. And 2, type 1 design alternative to allow a rear yard setback of 20 feet for the eastern lot and 23 feet for the western lot, where the minimum required rear yard setback for a house D building type is 30 feet per city code. Jillian will be presenting from staff today.
Good evening, members of the commission. Jillian Summer with planning staff. Item 5, like Johnny said, is in regards to the property at 913 24th Street. Here is a map of the property, just to give you some context. It's south of I-235, west of MLK, north of Ingersoll, and Woodland Cemetery is just to the southwest of this property. This property is a double frontage lot, meaning that it has street frontage on 2 public streets, 24th Street to the west and 23rd Place to the east. There is an existing house on the property that fronts 24th Street. The front door faces 24th Street. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property in order to create a new development lot for a new home that would face 23rd Place. They would need to submit a plat of survey in order to subdivide this. It is typically a simple form of subdivision. However, our subdivision ordinance does require that all new lots have a minimum lot depth of 100 feet, which this plat does not meet. In addition, we are analyzing the House D building type regulations for a new home. They would not be able to meet the front yard or the rear yard setbacks for the new home, and they would not be able to meet the rear yard setbacks for the existing home. In analyzing the character of the area, which is what the design alternative criteria require us to do, we didn't feel that this proposed subdivision is in character with the surrounding properties. There aren't any lots nearby that are less than 90 foot with lot depth, and they're on this block. If you go back to, on this block, the other properties, which are similar, they have frontage, double frontage. None of the existing properties have this situation where there's 2 properties. So we did not feel that it was in character of the surrounding area, and therefore we are recommending denial.
Questions for staff?
I have a question, please. Can you show us give us a map of the area and show us what the plat, where this property is located, where the plat is located in relationship to other plats surrounding it?
Des Moines maps as a favorite here. So this is our city GIS. The subject property is the property highlighted in yellow. Just to give you a close-up view here, the neighboring, the 23rd Place basically ends, it dead ends into the cemetery. So this whole block between 23rd and 24th is double frontage lots.
So that north-south strip, all those lots, that's one plat, is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
And then the plat to the east, is it the same thing there, or is it, both parcels, that are adjacent, forming a plat of some kind as well?
So this block to the east has a paper alley down the middle. The houses face 23rd Place on the west, and they face 23rd Street on the east.
Mm-hmm. I thank you for showing me that. I asked the question because when these plats were laid out across the nation, and particularly here in Des Moines and in Iowa, laissez-faire was the done deal. a developer could do anything, basically anything he, she, or they wanted to do without any kind of city regulation. And so we get all the time these terminal streets, these plats that are juxtaposed one another without any rhyme or reason in terms of through streets and so forth and so on. Typically, it's a high Victorian complete mix-up in terms of how the city was laid out. And this is kind of a good example of that, right? There's not regularity that one would expect in a larger parcel of land that was subdivided. And so I asked that question because within this context, and with the context of the city of Des Moines trying to have more affordable housing and more housing for the needs of people here, and given the fact that typically, and this is an area as well, that lots are broken up in different pieces and so forth, my take on this, that to have this another subdivision for another house and another living unit isn't a bad thing. Thank you.
One other item that I need to mention is that we did receive a letter from the Neighborhood Association. Similar to staff, they are generally in supportive of subdivisions of lots. However, they also felt that this didn't align with the character of the area. Let me go back to the...
Yeah, and maybe show the pictures too of the 23rd place.
So this is the existing house that it faces 24th. This is the view from 23rd Place looking north. You can see there's garages and kind of the backyards of these properties to the north. This is the view looking south. And like we said, at the end of this street, it kind of dead ends into the cemetery.
It's full disclosure, I have a leaning like Will, so I'm curious on the math of if you took the block across the street and looked at the two depths of those two houses without the alley, what is the difference in, what's the difference in size there? Like if you broke up the one you're in down the middle and it's two depths there, are they similar depths, the ones over there not counting the alley?
And that's what we looked at. The ones to the east are 90 feet deep, which is also less than 100, obviously. They just weren't as much as what's being requested now.
Can I ask a question? I think I missed it. They're keeping the existing, they want to keep the existing house?
Correct.
And then build one facing the other way?
Correct.
So that you could split this, if you wanted to get rid of the existing house, you could split it the long way, pretty much, and go put two houses there by right, but they just don't want to demo that existing house.
Correct.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, so the plot right below it, it does look like what's on the east side would fit right above, right? I mean, or is that?
Sorry, I'm not understanding.
I'm just saying that if you split it down the middle, it seems like there still would be access to room to put a house that seems reasonable, comparable to the ones across 23rd, or no? Or I'm just trying to figure out that. I can't tell the geometry of it. I wasn't that great at geometry, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to figure out if the east to west length. Yeah, awesome.
This is the east to west length that you're seeing is 90 feet.
And the BTD one is?
Here, let's go to the sketch.
You go to, slide 6.
I have a question for staff in the meantime.
So you can see you'd have 85.6, which is pretty close, but 69.2 on the smaller one.
Gotcha, okay.
Would the building type house wouldn't that regulate the type of housing that's going to be required in the new lot if that lot is permitted?
Yes, that's correct.
But we don't know if if the requirements are going to fit in this new lot, if it's allowed.
I mean, we know that they won't meet the front and the rear setback. We don't know any details regarding like facade materials or garage or those types of things to know if there are additional design alternatives that would be necessary.
And if those design features do not comply with the requirements, then we'll have to see this project in front of us.
It's
again.
possible.
Thank you.
Question on this district, are accessory dwelling units allowed?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They're allowed citywide.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I will invite the applicant to the podium. If they're here. Yes. Please state your name and address. You have up to 10 minutes, and then you can sign in afterwards.
Hi, my name is Bo DeWall. I'm the property owner at 913 24th Street, sole member of BTD Properties. Thank you all for your time. Yeah, so this property, this neighborhood, I've just recently started investing in it here over the last year and a half. It's a great neighborhood. It's been a really good experience for me. This is just the second property, and one of the comments was, to your point, you could just remove the house that's existing. We chose to renovate, improve that house really over the last 4 months. The plan is to sell that property, and in splitting the lot, I think we could have a more feasible, more affordable purchase price in doing so, with having the opportunity to build a second property back behind. We've got proposed drawings. We really feel like things would align well with the neighborhood on the type of home that we would try to build on the back lot. And, looking specifically at the lots to the east where they are split, we really feel that the setbacks align. From the street setbacks, being in the 20-foot range, I think this lot is looking more at, the width versus depth and the type of home that we would be building to fit accordingly. The overall square footage of the lot is significantly larger than some of the lots just to the east of it. It would be just shy of, I think, about 6,800 square feet roughly, is what the actual lot would be. And we know just to the east there are many properties that are more in the 3,500 square foot range that homes are being built on. So we really feel that there's applicable space to put a nice home, continue investing in the neighborhood, and it's been a good process. Like I said, throughout the year and a half, you get to know some of the neighbors, and they're coming over. They've maybe seen a property that's been run down for 10, 15 years. So that's been a pretty cool experience, just going through that, just in my short time doing it, and something I would like the opportunity to continue investing in. So I appreciate you guys, considering it. I do have my contractor and realtor here that's helping me as well, that can kind of speak more specifically as far as, the build out and what we feel we could accomplish with that space that we're seeking approval on. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Michael DeWall. I'm contractor, realtor, and brother to Bo. So in regards, like Bo was saying, with the 20-foot setback on the front side, if you show 939, 937, 905, and 909 on 23rd Place, each house is at most 20 foot off of the street. So building there to where we could build in that 20-foot range off of the road, it would sit in line with all of those houses. Also, I know in this neighborhood, doing a 2-story home is, I think, what's required. Either a 1.5 story or 2-story is the new zoning requirements, and that would actually make it easier for us to fit a house on that narrow lot, and so that we could build up rather than out. So we could do a nice main floor, and then do a house with bedrooms on the second floor to give us the square footage that we would need. I believe it's a minimum of 1,200 square foot is what they're looking for now, and we could easily achieve that with an attached two-car garage. Our idea is to build a house on as close to one side of the property as we can, so that way we can still have a decent side yard for whoever would purchase the house. Like Bo was saying, it creates another opportunity for somebody to own a house in the area. I know a few of you had spoke that you think it's a good idea to have, more affordable housing. And that's what we're working towards to create. We've, flipped a few properties around the Des Moines area, and that's always our goal, is to make a property as good as we can. Anytime we work on a property, we build it to the aspect that we would want to move into it. And, that expectation that if we wouldn't live in it, then we couldn't ask somebody else to or want to sell it. So that's kind of our goal for this area. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
How big is the existing house, did you guys say?
The existing is it 1,500?
Yeah, the main floor is just under 1,100 square feet. Total finish, counting the basement, would be about 2,000 square feet. Actual finished space, that would be utilizing some space in the middle as well. So main floor and upstairs is about 1,500 square foot finish.
Because just looking at the,
Sorry about that.
that existing condition survey, you could almost mirror it, just flip it across the midline and
Yeah.
it would all fit there.
Yep. I mean, that's what a property very similar in size is what we were hoping to get approval on.
Could you say it was 1,500?
1,500 is what the main floor and the upstairs is,
Thank you.
correct? Yep.
Is that compliant or is that illegal? Like to build a new house, it's the same size as that house? Is that a legal house or is that against the law?
I don't know, Andy. We'd have to, I mean, there are some minimum lot requirement or building size requirements, there's, that can vary with type 1 design alternatives. I don't know that we should get too far in the weeds. I think it's just a matter of question of what's in character with the neighborhood and what do you guys want to support? I mean, I don't know if there's anybody in the audience that's going to want to speak on this too, so.
Yep, unless there are any questions for the applicant. Is there
Potentially
anyone
one-
in?
What's the intended price point, out of curiosity?
On the future home,
Yes.
We'd be looking at mid-twos, maybe 275 range is kind of for a new construction home. I feel like that would be, kind of considered in there with construction prices, where they are now. It's tough to do a new construction home and get much below there. We're small builders. We do a lot of the work ourselves. So we try to keep it, as affordable as possible, but we also do still have to do it and make some, some money off the deal too. So, but that's the kind of the price point that we're looking at.
Will the house have a basement?
Yes.
You say yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in support of this request, please step up to the podium, state your name and address. 5 minutes, and you can sign in afterwards.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Carol Maher. I live in downtown Des Moines. I think this is brilliant. I think this is an excellent and creative way to provide infill housing in the city, and we should take advantage of this in every large lot situation in the city. This is an opportunity for an existing property owner to make buck. Bank, I guess is the word, sorry, I'm not hip. But they can split the parcel that they're not using, sell it off, make a little money, invest it in their existing home, and voila, we've got another house that we're in desperate need of in this city. If you've been paying attention, you know that's true. So I think it's brilliant. And like I said, we should not only support it and promote it throughout the city, but certainly on this block. These guys can show the others how it's done. And we're talking like maybe 5 or 7 new homes. It's not like it's going to be a 20-story high-rise. So I think it's brilliant, frankly. And I encourage you, unfortunately, city staff, to go with approval of this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Don't forget to sign in.
Oh, yeah, not done.
Anyone else in favor? You may have up to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, Elliot Klimowski, 673 41st Street, kind of the sideline reporter here. I just wanted to touch on a few things. The recommendation from staff, I think, said they recommended denial because of incompatibility with neighborhood character. They're working with the materials they have. The word character appears in Plan DSM a number of times. That word also has a bit of a salacious history in the United States, and in an exclusionary manner, which is unfortunate. As for the character that we're trying to protect, I know that if I were living on the east side of 23rd Place and I had the choice between looking at scrubby forest land or a new house, that would be an easy choice for me to make if I had to pick one side of that coin versus the other. As for the nonconformance of setbacks, the word setbacks could also be defined as government mandated wasted space. The reason that we have setbacks in America, in Australia, and in Canada is because we wanted to cosplay as British lords. Is anybody in here a British lord? Didn't think so. Your yard might be overrated. It's beautiful, but overrated. To echo a prior sentiment, infill opportunities at every cost are paramount in a city facing the kind of infrastructure liabilities that Des Moines is facing now, let alone in 40 years when I'm 70 and I'm having to take out a significant loan in order to pay my assessment project. Mr. Page, you said something about housing affordability being very important, and it seems to me that based on the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance, we've made illegal the starter home. People have varying definitions of what a starter home is. Chuck Marone from Strong Towns would say that a 600 square foot house is what used to be a starter home. It would be illegal to build something like that in virtually the entire metropolitan area, which is a shame given how expensive housing is these days. And then as for the staff recommendation, I know working as a city planner and somebody who has to issue official staff recommendations, I frequently have to make recommendations that I do not professionally nor personally agree with. And I'm not at all suggesting that the city of Des Moines staff are in that same boat, but that's a situation that arises in my office sometimes. And so I know that they support opportunities for creative and productive infill as much as the next guy. And as for all of those things, I think it kind of points to some of the pitfalls of an occasionally over-prescriptive code. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this project?
Hi, I'm Marshall James again. Live on 667 40th Street, and one thing I just learned in this meeting is that my house is illegal. I live in a bungalow house that is 1 story, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, built in 1921, and thankfully was affordable as my first and only house that I own and have ever owned. And despite it being illegal by our codes, I love it, my family loves it, and it's been great to escape the rent trap and finally be building equity. So I just want to echo the idea that while I appreciate that we have certain guidelines and standards that when possible, when it makes sense in a case-by-case basis, waiving those so that we can put more infill, more starter homes, so that more people can escape the rent trap, I think that'd be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor? Opposition? Please state your name and address. Have up to 5 minutes, and please sign in afterwards.
My name is Marilyn Hawkins. I live at 937 24th Street. I just lost my husband in April. Korean War vet, had dementia. I'm opposed to the house being built on 23rd Place. Right now we have so much traffic over there in that area on 24th and Olive, and you got cars parking on both sides of the street, and it's causing a real hazard. I don't know how he's going to get that house into that property on 23rd Place. I'd like to see a picture of it before he starts to build it, to see what it looks like and how he's going to set it in there. Because it's a dead-end street, and you got another dead-end street on 23rd Street. You got one up in Olive. I would just like to see how he's going to do that and put that house in there before he starts the project.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Any neutral? Seeing none, the applicant does have a 5-minute rebuttal if they wish to use it.
Just want to say thank you again for your time. Appreciate all the feedback, support. Yeah, we do have, I feel, very good ideas for plans that would fit well on the lot. The pictures you saw, there was kind of an old busted out fence along the back, extremely overgrown. That fence has been removed in the process of cleaning up the lot significantly. So nothing but positive feedback from neighbors directly across the road to the east that have continued to say, we haven't seen this thing look this good in 20 years. So I mean, again, it's just a lot of positive feedback that's really made the process that much more enjoyable. And we would sure like the opportunity to put another, nice home right to the east of this property. So thank you guys.
And I'd just like to say again that as far as, I know you're worried about what type of home was going to go in there and how it would fit in there. We would, work with the city and try to make it, we want something that's going to fit within the community. As far as size, decor, everything, just the style of home. We want it to fit with the area and, feel like it belongs. It's not going to stick out like, and that's what our goal would be. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and let the commission deliberate.
Can we clarify?
I support the applicants. I think it's increasing density with single-family homes is a needed and desired project here in Des Moines, and looking around numerous Midwestern cities and also in eastern cities, you see houses that don't have the number of setback, but it's still giving opportunity for people to buy first time buying into a home. So I think this is reasonable, and I would support this position.
Francis, is that a motion? Is that a
I
motion?
think that is a motion, yeah.
Yes, it is a motion.
Can we have one clarifying thing for the citizen, though? There still will be a step of seeing what the house design is, right? So it isn't just all of a sudden the house will just show up. There will be design review, or no?
Well, administrative design review, there would be, it's not likely that there's going to be anything that's going to require commission review. It's possible, but it's not likely, especially with the most recent amendments to the code where we have a lot more flexibility on administrative waiver.
Okay.
I have a question, please. When in terms of the recommendation, it mentions the plat of survey. Is that this?
Yeah, platted survey is just kind of our entry-level platting tool versus like a full preliminary plat and final plat. Yes, yeah.
So if I move approval of the plat of survey,
Well, I think Francis,
We have a motion
It's already
on,
moved.
yep.
and actually you want to move
He's
the-
moving approval of the request.
of the request, because there's also design alternative, or, design alternatives associated with it, so.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the request in front of the commission tonight. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Any committee director reports?
Well, I just want to note that I believe this is Abby's last meeting as a commissioner. So thank you for your participation and, the years of service. I'm trying to remember how long have you been on?
It's been exactly 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Abby. We'll miss you. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
Thank
moved.
you.